I'm going to have to say here, this is the easiest, best tasting cookie you'll ever eat. You can make this gluten-free or not. I happen to make them gluten-free. So crispy, and they melt in your mouth too. Everybody that's ever eaten them loves them. Hi, it's Robbie from Southern California, and today I'm going to make those cookies that I absolutely love, Gary and I, with gluten-free flour, but you can use regular flour, and nuts. Oh, they're so good. They're one of my favorites. So let's get this going so you can see how easy it is to make. I always wash my hands before I start, and I wash my hands in between when I touch different things. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a bowl, and we're going to mix 1 cup, where we're going to put in 1 cup of flour. So we've got 1 cup of flour, and the flour I am using is a gluten-free flour. You can use any flour you want. The next thing is potato starch. This is like the secret to it. And this is my own recipe. I put this together and it's perfect. 1 tablespoon. We got a tablespoon of potato starch, not cornstarch, potato starch. The next thing is a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda of your choice. And however much salt you want to add. If you're using salted butter, then you won't have to add. I just use a dash. That's all I use. So that's what's in here. We're going to mix this up really good. And then we're going to just put it aside right now. Okay, so we've got that put aside. Now the next thing I need is oil. So I use, this is just the way I do it. I use about a 1/2 stick of butter. I know a lot of people use a whole thing, but I like the way oil works with your cookies. It makes it crispy. So I put it, and you can change it up whatever way you want. So I use roughly a 1/2 stick of butter. And this has been softened. It's been sitting out. And then I top it up with oil. So it's a 1/2 cup. So there's about a 1/4 cup of butter. But again, you can put in the amount you want. So now we've got, and if it's a little bit more, it's okay too. About a 1/2 cup, a little bit more. So now I've got 1/2 oil and 1/2 butter. Okay, so let's get that in here. This is like the simplest recipe, and it's fabulous. I've been making it for whoever comes over, and they cannot believe it's gluten-free. See, I like scraping out everything if I can, so I use a spatula for that. So let's get that, all that goodness out. I mean, after all, butter is not cheap. And so we got all that out. Now, I'll just set this here. The other thing we're going to need is about a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. If you want to use almond flavoring, that's up to you. And what I do is I put a capful in. It's probably about a 1/2 teaspoon, thereabout. So I've got that in there now. And then, now this is 1½ cups of sugar. Now I mix it, as you can see, it's 1/2 brown sugar, and I use dark brown, but you can use any you want, and regular table sugar. So it's 1½ cups total. So we've got that in there, and then one more thing we've got to do, let's use this cup, is an egg. Look, one of our own eggs, they're green. So we're going to put in 1 egg, and you can mix it up before you put it in or not. It's all going to be mixed really good. I did not throw the shell on the floor. I have a compost bucket on the floor. Let me rinse my hands. We'll show you how to get that together now. Now the other thing I use is a pastry cutter. I absolutely love this, and once I started using it, I haven't changed back. I just love it. Now you're just going to incorporate, let me get my sleeves up. You're going to incorporate the sugar, the oil, the butter, and the egg. And of course your vanilla flavoring. Now I have found that this thing really works good for cookies. I know people use it for making bread, but let me tell you something, it really mixes everything good. Now we're going to mix in our flour mix, our dry mix. And I might just put it up here. It might be easier to mix. Now, if your batter is ever really too stiff and you want it a little bit looser, don't add water. Add in a little extra oil. If you add in water, all you're going to do is make usually really hard cookies. So you'll bite into something and it'll be almost like a clay that dried. Oil won't do that. Oil will keep it crispy. Butter will soften it a little bit. So add in whatever you want. And then get it all incorporated in. Now we're not quite done yet. Let me move this in here. The next thing I do is I chop up finely about 1 cup of nuts. So I need a cup. Let me grab a cup. Now you can mix it. You can use your favorite nut. The whole idea of cooking and baking is put in the flavors you absolutely love. And when you do that, you will love what you make. If you're just going to make a recipe and you don't like it, you don't like ginger, you're not going to like it. So you're going to add in about a cup of nuts. Now I'm going to mix this. Let me see if I can stand this over here. I'll put a clothespin on that afterwards. I'm going to put in part almonds and part pecans. You put in the nuts you like. You want walnuts? Put walnuts. Put whatever you like. You want peanuts? You can put peanuts in there. I sometimes use mixed nuts. That will work too. Now this is just a chopper. It's an old chopper. I can't tell you where to get it because it's probably about 30 years old. Now hold on. This is going to get loud, so give me a minute. Now, with your chopper, you make it as fine or as big as you want. You want big chunks of nuts? Go ahead and do that. I'm older. I'm trying to save my teeth from chewing on hard nuts. So I like using it very fine. Now we're going to incorporate it all inside. Let me move this out of the way. And we're going to incorporate the nuts in with the mixed dough. And how nice this is. Let me get a good close-up so you can see that, because this is beautiful. Okay, it's all incorporated. Let me grab a spoon, get that all out of my pastry cutter. This mix is so good on all kinds of cookies. Just love using a pastry cutter now for this. Okay, let me show you this. You see that? This is what it looks like. Isn't that beautiful? All mixed up. It just went in gorgeous. Now all we're going to do is we're going to start putting our cookies on the pan. You can roll them out. You can just drop them on whatever way you want. I kind of put them on there and pat them down in little balls. Try to make them about the same size. This way they bake better. You can put coconut in here. Sometimes I do put coconut. Sometimes I make half and half. So I have half of my cookies without coconut because sometimes I don't feel like coconut. And then Gary likes coconut. I can mix in coconut to the rest of the batch. You can put chocolate chips on top if you want. These cookies are so good. They taste like, well, I want to say store-bought, but they're just fantastic. I know that, like I said, when people come over, they eat it and they go, this can't be gluten-free. Oh, it is. The problem is we can eat so many of them. But you know what? You're only using a cup of flour. What's probably the worst thing in here for you would be the sugar. But you've got all those nuts in there and it becomes almost really flour for your cookies. So you're using a whole lot less flour. A lot of your cookie recipes call for like 1.5 cups of flour, where you're using a whole lot less. And now what I do is I put it in an oven at 350, and I do not set a timer. You can. I would set the timer for about 7 minutes, But what I do is I turn them, because I have an old gas oven, I turn them as soon as they start to turn a little bit brown. With cookies, let's get this in the oven. With these cookies, and really almost any cookie, it's better if you have a choice to go undercooked instead of overcooked. When you go over, the cookie burns, it doesn't taste as good. You know how that is. But when you're undercooked, and it won't matter, I mean, people eat cookie dough, remember? It's much better. You're safer that way. But as soon as it's golden brown, a light golden brown, it's done. And then you just take it out. And they're just so, you saw how fast it was to make. So easy, so incredibly good. But I stay in the kitchen because sometimes I'm watching a movie, Hallmark or something, or Great American Family, and I walk in there and I think, oh, I'm only going to be a couple minutes. Even with the timer, it can get warm. If you have a gas oven, especially an older one, you set it for 350, they really do fluctuate. And they can fluctuate, if you're setting it at 350, it can go as low as 325 and as high as 375. And that's the problem. Electric, you're right on the money. Usually with electric, you've got a good one. If you set it at 350, it's going to be 350. So I really do watch mine. They're generally in for about 7-8 minutes. And then, as when they come out, I let them sit for just a few minutes, literally like 2 to 3 minutes. And then what I do, I'm going to try to squeeze more on here, so I only do 2 trays. It's cheating, but I can cut them apart if they touch. What I do is I take them off the cookie sheet within 2 to 3 minutes. I lift them off and I put them onto a cooling rack. In my opinion, cookies, I don't think I can do it in 2 trays. Cookies to me always taste better when they've been cooled on a cooling rack. They have a really nice dry, crispy bottom. Otherwise, when they're not on a cooling rack, sometimes they're almost soggy. Sometimes. And that's, again, this is up to you. You make them the way you make your cookies. I'm trying to see if I could squeeze them all on. Usually I'm in a hurry right now, but just because I want you to see how good they are. But the thing is, usually I do make 3. It makes 3 trays of small cookies. You can make them any size you want. Just the only thing with this is make sure, yeah, I'm really pushing it. Make sure that they're all about the same size. Yeah, this is really pushing it, but that's all right. I make these every few days. Gary loves coming in from the garden and just grabbing, or in the morning with a cup of coffee. These are really going to touch, so they're going to spread. Just take the knife before you lift them and cut them apart. This is not usually the way I do it. I usually make them smaller, and I make 3 trays. Now there's a little cookie we can add to that one. So I have another tray ready to go as soon. I'm trying to make the cookies a little bit bigger, but all even, as soon as the other one is ready. And I'm going to check the other one. I'm going to turn it. But this is how quick and easy it is. It's so easy. No cake mix or anything. All you're doing is making fresh baked cookies with nuts. And as long as you use the ingredients that you like, you'll like them. Because that's the whole idea of baking or cooking. Now you should see me in the kitchen when I'm cooking. I'm throwing in all kinds of stuff. I go into the refrigerator and see what I've got. And it's like, oh, that's leftover and that's going to be really good. And I just, boom, just throw things in that way. Let's move this over. Let me check my cookies. And I really do watch them because that makes the best cookies. Watch your cookies. Oh yeah, they're going to touch. So now I turned them, they're flattening down, and as soon as they're golden brown, I'm going to take them out, and I'll keep an eye on them. So let's check the cookies. I bet you they're done. Oh yeah. Oh, look how golden brown. Is that beautiful? Let me put the other tray in. Absolutely gorgeous. When I was a kid and I went to school in grammar school, they used to have something called flying saucer cookies. I don't know what they were, but I loved them. And I think these kind of taste like that. Okay, now what we're going to do is get ready to lift them. If any of them are touching, cut them while they're hot. This way they won't break when you lift them. So just kind of make a little cut if they're touching. As soon as you think they're a little bit too hot to take off, so I want to wait like 2-3 minutes. It also will depend on the size of the cookies. If they're smaller, you can lift them quicker. If they're bigger, you want to wait a little bit. But I think we're getting close because otherwise it will start to stick to the pan. As you notice, I did not oil pan. Oh, this one broke. I'll have to eat that one right away. Yeah, they're still a little too hot. There we go. See, now they're going to lift. You just have to get them right at the right time. And then they'll lift up beautiful. Little too early, they start to break. Ah, that one broke. Okay, and you know what? Because usually I make them smaller and they just lift right up. What I need is a bigger spatula. I'm just not sure what happened to it. Oh, there it is. This one's a little bit bigger. This should be really good. There we go. This one's bigger. That was a smaller spatula. And these are really big cookies. But of course you can make them a whole lot smaller. Aren't they gorgeous? And usually by the time the second batch comes out, these are already cool enough they can go into a tray. I usually put them in a cake pan. So let me check on the other one, see if I have to turn them. Oh yeah, getting close. I turn them as they start to flatten. Okay, so let's wait and see when those come out. In the meantime, I'll go get myself a cake pan. So I'm going to check the cookies, see how they're doing. They've been in there for about 5 minutes or so. Very close. So now I'm going to put these, just because it's for us, I'm not putting them on anything fancy, in a plain old cake pan. And the reason I use cake pans is they have lids. So I can just leave it sitting on top of the stove. Aren't they gorgeous? Look at that, they're so beautiful. Oh my gosh. See, they're crispy. You heard them? They're gorgeous, just beautiful. And of course there's a broken one. So you know what happens to the broken one. Oh my gosh. I absolutely love these. Ah. Now you could cut the sugar down if you wanted to. When you're cooking or baking, remember, you alter it to the way you like. Really cool. Oh my God, so good. So good. Almost. Literally, I come in here midnight, sometimes 2 in the morning. If I can't sleep, I think, oh, we're out of cookies. Something easy to grab, have with your coffee in the morning. And then we end up eating breakfast afterwards, and they're just so good to make. And they taste so good. Remember, you can use a gluten-free flour, or you can use a regular flour. Either way is good, and they're so good. Oil will flatten the cookies and make them crispy. Butter makes them a little bit softer. You can either go whatever way you want, more butter, more oil. But I use half and half, and that's what works for me. So I've got the whole recipe there, easy to make. I bet you it's done. Oh yeah, they are done. Get the oven off, 350 now, shutting off. There it is. Is that not beautiful? Aren't they gorgeous? Sit them down here. Now some of them are touching, so I'm going to want to kind of cut them. Normally I make them smaller, they don't touch. But remember, you want to cut them apart while they're still hot. Then when they cool, they'll lift out and they won't pull on one another and they won't break. And of course, if they break, be brave. Don't worry about it. Just eat it. Don't let anybody see them. Just eat the broken ones. And that's all there is to making these fabulous kind of a sugar nut cookie. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to get these on the rack and get them all packed up and ready to eat in the morning. So with that, have a wonderful day. And don't forget to eat what you're growing. There's nothing in here that I grew, but that's okay. You got the idea. Bye-bye.